Well, let's get the view from Kenya now. Joining me from Nairobi is Farah Maalim. He's Kenya's former Deputy Speaker of Parliament. Also in Nairobi is Andrew Franklin. He's a lawyer and a security analyst. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us on the Newsmakers. Andrew Franklin, let me begin with you. Is Miguna Miguna the persecuted revolutionary that he claims to be?
Miguna Miguna is an actual patriot who has been mistreated since the 2nd of February 2018, from when he was dragged away from his home in Rwanda and eventually deported. He is, in fact, a radical. His treatment has exposed the reality of Kenya's legal system, its security infrastructure, and the failure to implement the 2010 Constitution. He is not fronting for the opposition. He is not fronting for anyone. In fact, in many ways, he has now self-actualized. He is in many ways a Samson who's bringing down the temple.
Is he a Samson who's bringing down the temple, Farah Maalim? Big claim.
Well, Miguna has been in active radical politics from his student days. You have to understand this man is somebody who had to leave, to run away from his own country because he was going to be detained as a young student in the University of Nairobi many years back. So he has maintained what I would call those radical views, and is a patriot, exactly as my friend says. And he is indeed, yes, he is hell-bent on seeing to it that there are changes in this country. There's no doubt about that. And he is not a politician in the sense of the name politician, because politicians in Kenya for many years have doubled up both as being businessmen as well as politicians. But Miguna Miguna is somebody who was prepared to give up everything he had in Canada to come and fight for nothing here without expecting anything in return. So you could safely say he's a revolutionary, except he's not into any armed, or violent efforts to overthrow a state.
Andrew, he claims that this is a secret deal between elites. When he looks at Raila and Uhuru Kenyatta shaking hands at Harambee House, everybody else sees it as politics of engagement and taking the sting out of potential chaos in the country. He sees it as some sort of double dealing by the elites, ignoring the masses. I mean, isn't that a hyper-cynical view? Because these guys are coming together and trying to unite the country, aren't they?
It was a ceasefire that reflected the reality that Raila and NASA, or Raila and ODM, saw that mass action, demonstrations, more boycotts, stayaways, and the like would push the security forces over the edge. U.S. intelligence reports have indicated that Kenya is facing an existential crisis in 2018, a revolution being led by Raila Odinga. I have no partisan interest in this whole conflict. I've been in this country since 1981, but I can tell you that our security forces during the elections were overstretched. And many of their weaknesses and vulnerabilities were demonstrated in how they were dealing with demonstrations and problems in slum areas and the like. The economy had gone into a complete stall, and had the mass action, the demonstrations and the like been implemented by Raila, ODM, NASA, the country could have easily fallen over the edge. The ceasefire put a stop to that. 30 days after the ceasefire, we have seen nothing coming out about what's going to be discussed between the principals, that is Raila and the president. As a result, the Miguna affair has just essentially, I believe, killed the golden handshake. It's made it almost impossible to recover the ceasefire. After 36 years in this country, being intimately involved with the IEBC and others, I'm concerned about what's happening now.
Right. So, Farah, how close are we then to trouble returning to the streets?
Well, look, this is not the first time that we had disputed or contested elections and followed by a cycle of violence in the country, and more or less went to the precipice. We went to the edge, almost falling over. It's not the first time. We had in 2007, 2008, We had it in 92. We had it in 97. Other than 2002, every election we had a powerful contestation between the contestants on both sides because of election rigging. So what has happened is that in every case, there would be this political class in the opposition which would champion the people's cause, who would have a powerful section of the society rallying behind them. And then finally, it's going to come to some kind of a deal between the elite, and handshaking is exactly what has happened now. And progressively, the cause itself loses big time. And then you have to start all over again. Ordinarily, if indeed the contestations could bear fruits into meaningful reforms, we wouldn't have had this one cycle after the other, one cycle after the other. I don't think we're any better off today than we were in 1992, to be very honest with you. We have a new constitution, yes, but it's just in paper. The courts are giving orders, and nobody's implementing those orders. I mean, and to the extent which right now the courts have been threatened, so even that separation of power itself is lost. We have now the legislature itself is a voting machine. You have what's called a tyranny of numbers. So I don't see us indeed making such a powerful progress. Also, there is a powerful divide in the society. The gap between the rich and the poor is so enormous that if you call for a rally, an opposition rally on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, you probably get 1.5 million people coming out there. That tells you that these people are jobless. So there's a lot of problems. There's poverty, which is, but of course, on the other side, there are also the elite who are doing very well in terms of their own businesses and what you call tenderpreneurs. And the political class is the same political class, which keeps on cutting deals back and forth. So I think for the first time, you have somebody like Miguna Miguna, who is saying that I'm going to debunk all this hypocrisy and all this facade that has been there for many, many years and call a spade a spade. Hello? So in a sense, he is different from what things used to be here in the past. It's not the first time that people are shaking hands. No, they did it many times before.
And gentlemen, I just want to do some housekeeping here. We did reach out to ruling party members, Jubilee members. They didn't want to appear on the newsmakers this time around. They didn't want to talk to Miguna or about Miguna. Hopefully next time they'll appear on the newsmakers again, because we have had really good, constructive discussions and debates with their representatives in the past. Andrew, to the point of the loss of separation of powers, Farah is saying there's a loss of separation of powers. We're seeing court orders being ignored by the government, and there seems to be a case of some judges versus the government. Is that true? And how much of a problem is that, in your opinion, Andrew?
I believe it's a tremendous problem. The judiciary has been under attack, not merely by Jubilee, but also at times by ODM, by the opposition, since late 2016, early 2017. But in fact, the failure by the government to actually implement or listen to court orders, whether it's to switch on television stations that were switched off, had nothing to do with Miguna. The fact is that there's been a continuing failure on the part of the executive to actually obey orders from the judiciary. Now, the judiciary has also been under physical attack. On October 24th, 2017, the Deputy Chief Justice's official car was subject to a firearms attack. Her driver, a police corporal, was severely wounded. And I believe the Deputy Chief Justice may have been in her car at that time. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior, who was on TV yesterday in front of Parliament, at that time said it was a normal robbery that occurs on late afternoon on Ngong Road, which is a very heavily trafficked highway. That was a direct attack on this number 2 in the Supreme Court of Kenya. The fact is that when the Supreme Court of Kenya correctly invalidated the election and gave its ruling on the 1st of September 2017, they came under huge amounts of attack from State House and everywhere else. They were out of control. They were out of control. So this has been essentially a dismantling of the third arm of government, which indicates again that the 2010 Constitution is not being implemented.
So with all of this in mind then, Farah, is the NRM, the former National Resistance Movement, now they call themselves the National Revolutionary Movement, are they a necessary nuisance to keep the government honest at this moment in time?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how much of like-minded people who basically reformists that Miguna would be in a position to attract, because let's face it, much as he's a very honest to the cause itself and the need to have a change in this country, but he's also a fairly an abrasive guy who would not hesitate to call people names, which is not quite what do you call, a kind of a character you would need when you want to cobble some kind of a coalition together. But indeed, there is need for there to be a proper movement in this country that is going to address the grassroots problems of this country that has never been addressed since independence. And I think the earlier that kind of a thing can come together from genuine reformists who are not necessarily part of that powerful elite, which is propertied and which is very wealthy, I think that probably is going to create a national movement, because the elite itself are the ones who create the ethnicity and the divides and the regionalisms, and they come together again when they want. So they're never at war with one another, but the perception of there being a conflict between themselves has divided the country, validated them for so long, and given them a very long lease of life. So there is need for somebody to call that bluff, or a group of people to call that bluff, drawn from right across the country with all the different ethnic groups and all the regions, to fight for genuine reforms that is going to emancipate the ordinary people out in the streets, yes.
Okay, gentlemen.
So those are the kind of things, and I think...
yes, unfortunately...
Miguna has... yeah, okay.
Farah, I've got to wrap. I'm so sorry, and there's a bit of a time delay, so I apologize for jumping in there. Farah Maalim and Andrew Franklin, it's been great to talk to both of you. I hope you'll come on the program again in the not-too-distant future. Thanks for joining us.